The Hawks are out, and the Thunder just made it real interesting, so it's time to wake up, NBA! Welcome to Wake Up NBA, presented by State Farm, and we have some drama. We have some, well, not in the Eastern Conference, nearly as much.
No, there's one half has drama.
One half does have drama. Miami and Toronto is getting very interesting. Cleveland just shot their way into the conference finals and looked ridiculous. And in the West, intrigue. 2-1 Golden State now.
Yep.
And 2-2.
Portland got that sort of crazy Dame Lillard game that you said they would need if they wanted to make that series something.
They got the Super Dame game, which we sort of expected would happen at a certain point. I don't know if we expected it to lead to a win, but we got a Super Al-Farouq Aminu game, which we spent the entire last episode predicting. But let's start with Oklahoma City and San Antonio. The series that after a game looked
like it was just going to be done, and then even game two, that Oklahoma City win had such a bizarre ending that I think you could have framed it. And you know, it had also featured the Thunder giving up a big lead down the stretch. You could kind of be like, well, I don't know if this necessarily means anything.
Right.
But last night, game four, Kevin Durant just like, oh, right, I'm one of the greatest basketball players on earth. Let me show you how that works.
Yes.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, and Russ really let way to KD and was smart enough not to try to take over himself. San Antonio, and I know you have the numbers to back this up.
Yeah.
Just this is my impression of them in the fourth quarter in this series.
Oh, good. I love when you do the prop work. Yeah, no, it's been weird. I mean, this is a team that led all teams in the regular season in fourth quarter shooting, making over 50% of their shots. They come into this series, game one, 38%, but you can sort of say none of the starters were in. They could have missed everything in the fourth quarter of that game and still won. Game two, 31%.
Yes.
And last night, 33% from the floor in the final quarter. Add on to that in both of those games, game two, they get to the line 4 times. Game four, 3 times. So there is this sort of weird brownout that's happening to the Spurs in the fourth quarter of these games that you wonder, I don't know, it's just confusing because this is exactly what you expect San Antonio to be so good at, that when the nail is in the coffin, they're just going to hammer it down.
And it's hard to even say it's a legs thing older, because like Tim Duncan isn't playing down the stretch. Tony Parker looks very good down the stretch. And Kawhi, the young legs, looks not so good in the fourth quarter, gets shut out in the fourth. And I think the big story, and this is certainly oversimplifying, but KD reminds everybody every so often that, like, oh, he's a 7-foot, ridiculous athletic shooting freak who's unstoppable when he is, like, just completely in the zone. So that, I don't know if there's anything to be looked at beyond that, because it was just so damn impressive.
Now, I mean, the trick is that the Thunder still have to figure out a way to do what nobody can do, and that's beat the Spurs. In back-to-back, Otherwise, this series isn't going to go for them. So.
Yes. Let's go to a team that has just have sort of reached the potential that we weren't sure that they could.
Right.
And it was through, I think, a lineup wrinkle that they went for. Cleveland.
Yep.
Is shooting, lights out doesn't even describe. Like, there is just a complete vacuum of light when it comes to Cleveland and shooting. They bring in a lineup with Channing Frye and Kevin Love, something that they had only shown, I think, in 9 games during the season at the same time, 38 total minutes. And when LeBron is on the floor with those two, with that spacing, and certainly Channing Frye won't be able to keep up the clip. He's hitting like 65% from the field and 57 from beyond the arc. But with that spacing and Love hitting and Frye hitting, that opens up the key. What are you supposed to do against LeBron?
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting about LeBron is that because they have all this other shooting on the floor right now, the weight has been lifted on him. Last year in the playoffs, he took 27 shots a game. This year he's down to 19. That's huge to be able to say you don't have to do everything on offense. You can produce in the ways that you are so this is sort of vintage LeBron, where you say he doesn't just have to be the primary scoring mechanism. They work it through Kevin Love in the post. They've looked very impressive. I guess the question is, at this point, have they been sufficiently tested? It's a weird question, because this isn't the Eastern Conference of old, where a bunch of scrubby teams make it into the playoffs because somebody has to. The Hawks are a good team and push the Cavs certainly in a number of games in this series. I don't know. Do you think that this is an adequate test of Cleveland's capacities, or did the Hawks just not show up?
Right. So you can only beat who is placed in front of you, and whoever they get in the next round is also going to be beat up.
Very beat up.
With Valanciunas' injury and Hassan Whiteside's injury, and those are two interesting defensive teams. Miami certainly, when Whiteside is healthy, is really good and really versatile defensively, and they guard shots, they guard the perimeter really well, and Toronto creates turnovers, but Valanciunas being hurt, Kyle Lowry finally having a good game, but he's been affected by his own injury. I don't know. This could be like last year's Golden State, where it doesn't mean they're not great, but there's just a fortuitous road because of injury situations. So what Cleveland is doing is really impressive, and they're doing it against teams that aren't great, but they're doing it at a clip that's so remarkably efficient that you have to say, wow, that's great.
It's interesting how in the way, last year, so many things were going against Cleveland. Losing Kevin Love early in the playoffs.
And that, I think, is the shot thing with LeBron as well.
Right, and then sort of, once they finally get used to that lineup, they lose Kyrie. You look at the five-man lineup that has gotten the most time for the Cavs in this playoffs. That's Kyrie, LeBron, Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson, J.R. Smith. They've already logged 147 minutes together as a unit.
Right.
The five-man unit that got the most time for them last year in the whole entire playoffs. Oh
God, you're gonna say it.
I'm not gonna say who they are. I'm just gonna say
it involved Adova.
Timofey Mozgov is in that group. 104 minutes. So it's just one of those things where you can tell when you have one unit that can sort of be the A team, can get comfortable with one another, all the little things, spacing, passing the ball, understanding how to rotate on defense, all these things get better just because you're comfortable with one another. It's going to be very weird if we look at David Blatt's season with the Cavs going to the finals and say, well, he wasted all this potential. He couldn't do anything. But the flip side of that is all the injuries.
He didn't have Love. He didn't have Kyrie for the finals.
And then what happens if Tyronn Lue gets to say, yeah, it all went great for me. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
And he gets hired by the Knicks. He gets hired by the Knicks.
That would be far beyond the Knicks' capability.
That is true. All right. And with that, we're going to take a deeper dive.
Yeah.
We were promised.
We try to be analytical, but we're not primarily basketball minds.
Absolutely not. So we're going to turn to both Roger Sherman and Seth Rosenthal. I think Roger particularly, a nice deep dive on the numbers of the playoffs.
Thanks a lot, guys. People have been saying this segment isn't analytical enough, so we're going to really do some hard-hitting NBA playoff analysis this week. You ready?
Let's do it.
I got some questions for you. Roger, the Western Conference playoffs have been hotly contested. What do you see going on in the Spurs-Thunder series?
Great series. I like the way they dribble up and down the court.
In the Eastern Conference, does anyone stand out to you as a major contender against the Cavaliers?
Tough question. But I like the slam dunks, take it to the hoop. My favorite play is the alley-oop. I like the pick and roll. I like the give and go.
Roger, are you just saying lines from Curtis Blow's 1984 song Basketball?
No, that's...
Do you even watch basketball?
Yes, of course I watch basketball. I'm a basketball expert. Basketball is my favorite sport. I like the way they dribble up and down the court.
Guys, I'm sorry. Back to you.
All right.
How does Roger know what that song even... Roger's what, 16?
He is 16 years old, and yet he has the knowledge of Curtis Blow. So I think that's impressive.
I guess so. Congratulations on being 17.
He very, very easily could have just used Jadakiss lyrics.
Seth, on the other hand, 53.
Yeah, no, he looks
just
wonderful.
A youthful 53.
He looks wonderful.
Gets a lot of sleep.
Let's close with this.
Yeah.
Give me a player, much in the way Channing Frye. So let's call this segment Friday. Who is going to have themselves a Friday? Somebody that will step up, fill a void, and affect the game in a positive way. Any of these games.
I don't know that I don't know that I actually believe this.
Okay.
But I want to.
Give
me McBob. Josh McRoberts. I mean, has not gotten a lot of has been kind of a weird fit ever since he got to Miami. He's been hurt. He hasn't really found a good place in the rotation. But you don't have to go that far back, just a couple years, to see what he was able to do when he was on Charlotte in the playoffs, getting them something like 11 points, 7 rebounds a game, throwing like 5-6 assists. Now, granted, he was doing that, getting almost 40 minutes of playing time and being a starter. But I don't know. I want to believe that McBobbs has it somewhere deep down within that he can come in, give them 20 minutes of really top flight effort. Maybe give them 10 and 6. Is that crazy?
Affect some
Is that
shots,
crazy?
play some defense, grab some rebounds.
Especially with Whiteside's injury. I mean, they're
Right.
going to have to figure out, it can't all be, Udonis Haslem is, a senior citizen, terrifying senior citizen,
Yes.
but he can't just soak up all that time.
Right. The good thing is that defensively, Miami is there for help,
Yes.
and that he doesn't have to be counted on for
Right,
everything. He
right.
still feels a little bit to me like the Chuck E. Cheese ticket free agency signing. Like, what can I afford? Can we get McBob with these tickets? All right.
Give me 10 spider rings. 10 spider rings.
Over
instead.
McBob?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go with Leandro Barbosa.
Right.
Just because one of the experience that he has deep into the playoffs.
Yep.
Two, Steph probably is going to sit another game. He looks like he's getting better and better.
Yep.
But Barbosa, his ability to get red hot and contribute, he hits the boards. He keeps the ball moving. He is a quintessential Golden State type player that is now going to play, more and more 18, 20, 22 minutes against a Portland team that you need to be able to be quick against because they are so young. I think Barbosa is going to get that run, and I think that he can have like a 4 of 6 from 3-pointers,
Yeah.
4 assists, so like have a 16-6 game that will push Golden State over the top.
Yeah, he can be that guy that Portland looks at and says, look at all the other talent. This is unfair. Like,
Right.
make them beat us. How
Right.
come Leandro Barbosa is the one who gets to score randomly 15 points?
Driving the lane, finding Harrison Barnes in the corner.
Nonsense.
Yep.
Hate this.
That's my pick. I'm
Rude.
so sorry. Thank you. On that note, for watching Wake Up NBA this week, presented by State Farm. We'll see you next week.